This is the TP-Link Omada hardware controller OC220, a small but powerful box that acts as the brain of your entire network. Instead of running a controller software on a PC or a server, or juggling multiple apps to manage your access points, switches, and gateways, this dedicated device does it all for you in one place, 24/7, using the Omada app or cloud dashboard. This is the kind of device that replaces both a software-based controller and an older Omada controllers, giving you a faster, always-on, and more reliable way to manage your network. If you're building or upgrading a home lab, a small business, or office network, this little box becomes a central command center that keeps everything running and easy to control. And we're going to take a look at it next on Geekazine. What's up, my geeks? Jeffrey Powers here from Geekazine. Think Magazine, put in a geek. Now, TP-Link did send the OC220 to review, and they are sponsoring this video, but all opinions are that of Geekazine. I have a full page that talks about that over at geekazine.com/review. You can go over there and check that out. If you've got a product that you want me to take a look at, all you have to do is fill out the contact form, and we'll get it in shop to check out. Now, before we get started, I do want to make you aware of one thing that happened when setting up this device. Now, sometimes I have to do a dry run or on hardware or software, so I know what to expect when I do this review for you guys. When I was doing my recon on the OC220, I went to test it with my network, and it took over my ER605, as it should be. The problem is it wiped out all my router data, so I had to really start from scratch. Now, luckily, I've had everything pretty much backed up and mapped out on a spreadsheet, so getting it back up and running was not a big problem. It just took a little bit of time. With that said, before you get started with using this, keep in mind to back everything up so you know exactly what to replace if that does happen to you. But I'll tell you something, it's well worth it to have this thing in its place. Now, the OC220 is the predecessor to the OC200, and it came out about November of last year. Under the hood, the OC220 packs a quad-core CPU running at about 2 GHz, backed by 2 GB of DDR4 RAM and onboard storage, which includes 8 GB of eMMC and flash memory, giving it solid processing power for managing a busy network. It includes 2 gigabit Ethernet ports for network connectivity, with one port supporting 802.3 AF PoE input, so you can power the controller over Ethernet and keep cabling simple. And in fact, if you look at that, that's the way I have it set up right there through the PoE switches going into my ER605. There's also a USB 2.0 port for easy configuration, backups, and extra storage if you need for that. And on the back is a micro USB port for optional external power. Now, the unit is built with a durable metal housing and a fanless design for silent operation. As you can see, it's just sitting right there. And it's very compact footprint lets you mount it to a desk or wall without taking up too much space. The unit itself is 3.9 by 3.9 by 1 inches in size. Almost no computer is going to be that small. On the management side, the OC220 supports centralized SDN control for up to 100 Omada access points, 10 gateways, up to 20 switches, and even up to 2 DeltaStream GPON OLTs on compatible networks, making it capable of handling sizable deployments or just my little home network. It offers cloud access, it offers multi-site management, and a full suite of tools like batch configuration and firmware upgrades, intelligent monitoring, event logs, and scheduling. You can even manage everything through the Omada app or web UI, giving you on-premises and remote control options without licensing fees. The controller also supports advanced network features like VLANs, URL filtering, VPN protocols, and automatic device discovery, making it a powerhouse for both wired and wireless networks. So as you can see here, I have my OC220 running with the ER605 gateway. Like I said, the PoE switch is in between the two, powering not only the hardware controller, but also other APs, which will be attached later on. Setup is simply connecting the two and then setting up the configuration on the web page or setting up the app to configure it from there. Of course, when you start configuration, everything has to be in-house, but then when you have all the features set up, you'll be able to configure it from wherever. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the web interface. I'll show you the web interface and all the features of the web interface after it was set up. And of course, we'll also take a look at the app on iOS and see what that offers. We're going to start here. Now, this is the portal that I would normally go through before I installed the OC220. It's just basically my gateway, my ER605. But now that the 220 is taken over, it tells you down on the bottom, you should manage it through the other page. So we'll go over to that other web page to take a look at it. So this is what happens when you log in, and keep in mind it is a non-secure login. And I'm not exactly sure why TP-Link does that, but nonetheless, you basically log in from there, and then you can come in and you can manage your gateway, your switch, and everything like that. If you've got multiple computers, if you've got multiple networks, it'll all show up here. But I only have one for this gateway, so we're just going to go right in here. But before we do, I'm just going to go through the list here because there's a lot of different options here. We're on the global view, and of course, so once we get in here, then we'll go into the more local view. We got our devices where every device that is in this network or in this group will be seen right here. We've got our logs, which I apparently hit some log limits because I haven't had a chance to really set up logs, but you can definitely set up a log system. And that way, if you're doing more than what I'm doing and you really need those logs to deduce what's going on, then you can actually send it somewhere else. Like for instance, over on the other side here, we have a thing called settings. And of course, that's where we can do all the configuring and everything like that. So we can set up events, we can set up our audit logs, and then our advanced. And our advanced will include remote logging. And if we enable that, we can sync it to a server wherever we want to. So you can definitely set up another set of logs that will help you control what's going on. If you need to keep your logs for 6 months, a year, whatever, then you can send it somewhere else. We've got our firmware area. Of course, there is a firmware update that I got to do after I record this, but right now we can check all here for any type of updates. We've got our network tools where, of course, we can do all our checks, our packet capture. We can set up SSH login from here so you can be a little bit more secure, of course. If you've got an SD-WAN, you can create your SD-WAN group through here and then get your different offices all set up properly, which one's the MLPS and which one goes out to the internet and all that other good stuff. So we've got our accounts where you've got your users. So if you need to set up another account, then you're able to do that here. And then a variety of system settings, controller settings, cluster, new beta called cluster settings. And so this is the primary node basically manages all the devices while the secondary node will stand by. We don't have that enabled because, of course, we don't need a cluster, not in this situation. UI interaction, history data, you get a lot of different options here. And then, of course, cloud access. So this is an option that will basically set it up so if I want to look on my phone when I'm away, then I can do that here. And we're going to show you the phone options shortly. So that's all within the settings. I can actually turn this off. And then if I'm away from my office or home or wherever, then I won't be able to connect up to it. But with this connected, I can log into the network and see if there's a problem, if I need to turn off something. I can't access the computers in the office, but I can see how the computers are working if there's a conflict somewhere or whatnot. So I cannot be in the office to resolve some issues. From the dashboard, we're going to go into the individual. This is the ER605. And as you can see, I haven't set up much on the traffic just yet, because I've just got this, and so I've got to go through some configuration here. I also don't have an AP set up. I use a different type of Wi-Fi system, so it doesn't really know that it's a Wi-Fi system, but eventually I'm going to be hooking up the AP, especially TP-Link AP in there, and then I will be able to populate this, so you'll see the clients and everything like that right through here, all your traffic, which is going to be great. That is through the dashboard. As you can see, we got in the dashboard, we do have some traffic going on right now from the internet. We've got our network overview, which we can expand right here. And then we've got our topology. It shows our WAN, it shows our gateway, and of course our clients and our Omada controller, which is the OC220 here. We can configure our wizard and add more. So like if I wanted to add a wireless LAN, I can set that up right here. And if I want to do another device, support, isolation, or anything like that, I could go through this topology if I wanted to do that. We can then go to our clients and take a look at all the clients and all the information. Like for instance, some of these computers have been up for multiple days. One of my computers is on 24/7, so it says that it's been up for 41 days, and so I know that it's there. So if I actually went into here on the mobile phone and I said, hey, is that remote computer up, I would know through the app. I wouldn't be able to change anything unless I set up something on my own, but I would at least know that that's the reason why something's not working. And then, of course, we got the traffic area, which I showed you already. And once I get that set up, it'll have a lot more to this. Let's go over to the devices. Of course, we have our main device, which needs that upgrade. But from here, we can find out what we have set up. So this is the port situation that I have set up here. So as you can see, I don't have anything in the USB. I have my WAN in port 1, and then each of these in the back are going to different VLANs. I have a VLAN. My main VLAN goes through here. My secondary VLAN goes through here. And this third one's my main VLAN. And I can set these up for full duplex, half duplex, all that other good stuff if I wanted to. So if let's say I decided to take two and I put it into a AP that would give me guest access. So anybody that wants to connect up to the Wi-Fi, I'd give them guest access to do that. And then that could be isolated from these other LAN nodes, so they're not trying to snoop in, see what computers they can get into. As for clients, as you can see, it populates everything with the MAC address, with the IP address. And then, of course, the AP port, if there is an AP port on there. So we've got a full list right here. Of course, you're not seeing too much because this is my personal stuff. I got 38 clients and one mobile attached right now, and which is about right. And so I'm good. We got an offline area, which tells me all the stuff that's not connected right now, which makes sense. We've got blocked area. And then, of course, all the information through all right here. And we can export this for easy configuration. If anything goes down, we change out the OCC or anything like that. Next up is the monitoring heat map. This is mostly for Wi-Fi. So right now, like I said, I don't have an AP set up, but once I do get the AP set up, then I'll be able to see what's going on here. So you have 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz, 6 gigahertz. Eventually there'll be other bands as the Wi-Fi starts to expand through time. This is just a fake office. I could go in here and find out that a lot of stuff is being used, like right over here, where nothing's going on over here. And maybe I need to put in another AP over here or something like that. Just giving the whole idea of keeping the office nice and even for Wi-Fi and not oversaturated. There is also a device map option. Now this needs Mapbox API to use. And of course, Mapbox is a third-party program. You would get an API, and then of course Mapbox will bind with the system and then allow you to use this area for more information. We got the insights area, which once again, I don't have much in here, but as things start to work, it'll start to populate. And we have the logs area. This is the unresolved, and then we have the resolved stuff, and then the system logs and all the device logs. So it looks like this one failed to obtain an IP address 10 days ago. So it's basically resolved itself, so it's not a big deal. We have the event area. So we have basically it's allocating IPs and all that stuff through here. And then of course the audit logs, which I don't have any data in here. We'll go over to the configuration, many different options with the configuration, from site settings to set up SSH, to set up a virtual WAN, to set up 802.1x authentication, to VPN, setting up NAT transmission. There's a whole list of stuff here. Most of you will probably go to SSH to do an SSH login. You'll basically just click there and open it up, and then put in the SSH server port. And if you want layer 3 accessibility, and apply from there. We then have device configuration. We can configure our DNS, our MAC filtering, our IPTV if we're running more of a video system. We got Bluetooth options and Xcore. Let's go to Bluetooth really quick. So we can set that up. We can set up an aging area and then create a new entry. We can give it a name, URL, and then we can set up for Bluetooth advertising, basically location services and grouping, advertisement configuration, functionality, all that other stuff through here. I don't have it set up, of course, but if you want to make some connections a little bit easier, sometimes it works better this way. With this, you can manage up to 130 Omada devices, from access points to switches, gateways, and everything like that. And you can offer on-premises management and access via the Omada app, or basically the web interface. Then if you choose hotspot, that's going to take you to a new page right here, which is basically giving you all the authorizations that you need for the hotspot. You can set up your clients right here. You can go through your statistics and your voucher groups. You can set up your local users, your form authentication data, and of course operations. We also have network tools, which of course will give you network check, packet capture, terminal, cable test, and interference detection. Plus we got this Intello Recover, which is in beta, and basically it monitors the status of power over Ethernet devices, automatically repairing abnormal devices. And it's going to tell you the device name and the device status and the MAC address and the IP address. So when I start adding in access points, they're going to be PoE, so they'll start to populate into here. So if, let's say, my outdoor access point is acting up, I can then go in here and take a look at it and maybe even repair it from here if it's not a physical cable issue or something like that. All right, so this is the Omada software through your phone. And once again, if you have it activated inside of your OC220, then you'll be able to access this inside or outside the office, depending on how you have it set up. This is what the app looks like on an iOS device. Might be a little bit different on Android, but it will tell you the devices that you can manage. And of course, your Omada controller, it's going to ask for permission, gets permission, and this is something similar that you'll see. It says that I have one gateway, that's my ER605. It says that I have no APs, which is true. I have no switches, no OLTs, but I do have 39 clients set up for this, and I'm checking out my internet activity. Of course, no Wi-Fi activity just yet. And of course, I can look at my topology right there, so I can see that same how this is all set up, and I can make some changes from here. We also have an insights area, which will show us our load, our gateway utilization, switch status, our devices, which we can then deep dive and figure out what we've got on our network. There's all the clients right there. And then of course our settings, where we can change our internet settings. I can't uncheck this, but that's my WAN right there. If I wanted to put on a second WAN or anything like that. LAN settings, we can set that up. We could set up a new VLAN from anywhere in the world. We got our wireless networks we could set up. Of course, once again, network security, transmission, dynamic DNS, profiles, you get the idea. So we can do that all remotely on our phone or our tablet when we're not in the office, if we have that setting turned on at the hardware level. So that's all the configuration. Let's talk about the pros and cons of this device right here. The only con that I really had about this was, like I said, when I pulled it out of the box, I hooked it up, I started looking at the configuration, I pressed a button, and boom, it didn't warn me. It just did it. It just completely wiped out my ER605. Like I said, not a big deal. I was able to get it reconfigured. It just took me a little bit of time to do that. Because I do have two VLANs. I have a VLAN for my computers and a VLAN for my cameras. And of course, if you're in a business environment, there's going to be a lot more involved in there. Not only VLANs and switches and everything like that, and some with mixed environments, some that are not TP-Link or anything like that. But of course, the biggest pro of this is the size of this thing. And look at that. It's just amazing. It's got one simple Ethernet cable. I could probably get a smaller Ethernet cable to reduce that footprint, but then you can plug something in from there, non-PoE, of course, and be able to have your network area in a corner of a closet. And think about that. If this was a remote office, I would definitely have a situation like that set up, because I could then control the gateway through the hardware controller, and I'd have that in an area where usually a remote office is very small and doesn't have a server room. So something like that is going to be perfect. You saw the logs, they were piling up. With that USB port, I'll be able to actually put in Drive, and I'd be able to move the logs over to there, or I could send them over to another computer. The best part was when I was not at home, one time my wife called and said, "Hey, I can't connect up to the printer and I need some help." And I was able to get onto the app. I was able to deduce what the problem was, which the reality was it was just needed to be turned off and turned back on, the printer that is, and we were able to get it up and running once again. But I could see it. I made sure that it didn't have any issues with another computer trying to take the IP address or anything like that. I checked everything from there. It showed when it was up and running. Being able to see it remotely so I can manage it properly is a great option right there. And of course, if you have a home business, you definitely want to be able to control what's going on in your environment. But let me ask you, what do you use for your network inside your home or your small office? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you got any questions, feel free to ask me over at geekazine.com, youtube.com/geekazine, or you can like, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you know when the next video comes out. Until next time, my name is Jeffrey Powers. Thanks a lot for watching. You guys geek out and control your networks with Omada by TP-Link.